All right. Chat. People from around the world have reacted to this video. Blizzard Dev Leak explains why Jeff Kaplan quit. This video right here. 2 days ago from your Overwatch. Frito. Let's see what you got. Flashbang.
What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. A YouTuber friend of mine, Sir Swag, released a video where he
Oh, I forgot we were supposed to watch that video too. Maybe we watch that after.
outlines quotes from an anonymous source that he has from Blizzard Entertainment, a developer that knows the inner workings of what was going wrong on Team 4, the dev team that was.
By the way, can we just appreciate really fast some of the talent tree stuff right here?
Inner workings of what was going
like Lucio with
wrong
stunned into the wall. Feels bad, man.
Team 4, the dev team that was working on Overwatch 2, and the now.
Yeah, I know Asmongold reacted to this video already, but we can watch Asmon's reaction. But I'd rather do my own first and see how much of my own opinions line up with Asmon's, and it's not like tainted, you know? Like I'm not influenced or anyway.
Canceled PvE. I reached out to Sir Swag as a precaution to say, hey bro, is this legit? Yes, it sure is. He has my confidence and trust. We'll break down the details of the leak, and as well, I think this illuminates a lot of the growing story arc of Jeff Kaplan leaving and the inner turmoil with the company. The anonymous source says the cancellation was 1000% an upper management executive issue. It was.
We haven't had anyone say this, but that is absolutely what I've said from the beginning is what it was going to be.
It's all about profit margins, that they were looking at a game like.
Yes, exactly.
Diablo Immortal.
So like think about it really fast. Really fast. Think about it. PvE was probably going to be its either own drop of like one big drop box bundle, $40, $60, whatever. That's it. Or they put it into the free-to-play model and they make you charge you per mission, or they try to, like, you know what I mean? Like, it would be really hard to monetize it past what currently is Overwatch with, like, extra skins and stuff. So, to them, they probably would have had to sink in another few years of dev work, hire a bunch more people, make a much bigger team, but for what return, right? What return?
Immortal, which was making $2 million a day, and that changed the expectations for the suits. The PvE was looked at as increasingly irrelevant and not going to earn money in the long term. Keep in mind that just the live service multiplayer game that they already had all of a sudden turned on a new revenue stream just by adding a battle pass and cosmetics. So you can see why higher executives would look at that and say, why do we want to invest in making this big, complicated, expensive game when we can make money in easier ways? So these
bingo. Honestly, bingo.
Claims stand to reason to.
Think about what every company does nowadays, and there's literally departments dedicated in companies for how fast and how easy can we make the transaction be from money leaving your wallet. Think about it. From auto pay to one touch, like that's why Amazon even has the button where it's like you can click on the button where you don't even have to go to like your cart, you just like buy now and just instantly takes you to buying it. Like the less buttons people have to press, the less things they have to think about in making the decision, and the easier they can take money out of your wallet.
To me, but it gets worse. During the pandemic, there was slowed production, and as progress got worse and they struggled to meet deadlines, there began a vicious cycle that was doomed to fail. The leak talks about talent leaving or getting reorganized to other projects, but also keep in mind that there was the lawsuit, which maybe some employees left due to protest, but as the production got worse, they actually pulled resources from the team, which was a doomed to fail strategy. And a little bit at odds.
All right, let's continue with the video. Sorry, poop break's over. We're back.
Some employees left due to protest, but as the production got worse, they actually pulled.
Wait, hang on. Let's go back a little bit, because I'm not going to lie. I was kind of checked out during all of this because I had to poop for a bit, and I was just like, uh-oh, do I go or do I not?
To fail. The leak talks about talent leaving or getting.
Hang on, even further back.
Progress got worse and they struggled to meet deadlines. There began a vicious cycle that was doomed to fail. The leak talks about talent leaving or getting reorganized to other projects. But also keep in mind that there was the lawsuit, which maybe some employees left due to protest. But as the production got worse, they actually pulled resources from the team, which was a doomed to fail strategy. And a little bit at odds because the team is always publicly talking about how they've expanded the team, doubled the size of the team. But no offense, when they bring on some of the new developers, they are often quite young. And no offense to young people, but a lot of the best devs and the seasoned veterans, the ones that usually have enough experience or knowledge, well, those are beginning to get thin. As many of them...
Wait, so is the argument here that because all the new devs are young, that they're like not as experienced?
Have left to other companies. So the anonymous source speaks quite contrary to a lot of the public messaging that we're getting from Blizzard. If you pay close attention, multiple Blizzard devs in the chats, live streams, BlizzCon line, the blog posts say how they've doubled the size of the team, increased way bigger than they've ever been before, but at the same time, they're admitting publicly as well that the workload they had was too much. It really sucks that the developers have to be themselves.
Wait, why is that like a monka?
The marketing mouthpiece for the game as well. So they sort of have to tell the lies that Bobby Kotick would want them to tell. Keep in mind, this is the same guy that would reportedly write verbatim the responses that his figureheads would say in response to the lawsuits. So you really have to be careful absorbing any of the PR speak from anyone at Blizzard as if it's them speaking themselves. No. They're speaking for Bobby. So they talk about the team size expanding,
True.
but does that mean part-time work? Does that mean the commissioned artists that they have to churn out the skins content for the game, that you have to imagine they pay less than a full-time employee? You're not really going to pin them down on any logically congruent storyline because somehow they both want us to believe that the team is massive, big, and capable, but also
it has doubled. Like that's not wrong. That's not propaganda. It has doubled. But the problem is though is that Overwatch's team is so much smaller than most games that are big AAA titles. Like, it's still small comparison to like what Overwatch is. You got to think though, if you've done any considerable or pursued any education on like what is business and stuff like that, and like costs and stuff like that, one of the biggest costs for any business is paying its employees. It's one of the biggest costs a company has, which is why, certain companies like, let's say like McDonald's operates with having like low pay on its employees. Not saying it's a good thing, but that's how they keep a lot of their costs down, is by min-maxing a lot of things. Like they don't, like McDonald's actually makes a lot of its money in real estate. So basically it leases the buildings to the franchisees. And that's how McDonald's makes a lot of money. But on the back end, employees cost a lot of money. So Overwatch has been farming, making so much money on a small team. And so yes, it's bigger now. But it needs to be way bigger than what it is to like really pump shit. So
they have to apologize.
I don't think
for
they're wrong.
The massive big project that they had, and instead transferring all their energy to something that is lower on production cost and a higher return on investment, as opposed to making a wonderful game that will build.
Yeah, I mean, Blizzard's now in the business of not making good games. They're in the business of making games that make money.
The franchise's IP strength overall, no, but
it's less art form. It's more. And if you notice in a lot of stuff that they do, it's more corpa.
Bobby doesn't like that. He likes profit margins. Small investment, big payoff.
Yes.
Instead of a bigger investment and also a big payoff.
That's true. That is actually very true.
That matters. Another contradiction from the anonymous leak, they said a lot of the developers left when the work from home policy was enacted, meaning that employees...
So, I don't know if this is... Hang on, I gotta check the tweet. Okay, this is a former Blizz employee, founder and CEO in Notch Studios, previously Blizzard Entertainment, and they ended up tweeting out this video that is the video we're watching, but it was Asmon's React. And it said, "Not sure who the anonymous source was, but almost everything in this video is false, including the reason why Jeff left." So I think that probably would also include the work from home thing. But obviously take everything with a grain of salt. Just giving you guys all the context.
employees had to actually live near the Blizzard campus, where it's very expensive. This is
true.
directly in contrary to Jared Ness, who says the opposite.
Right, and then there was also this tweet from Jared that, because there was a tweet that went live from someone in the Overwatch space who is mostly a Twitter creator, but they're not someone who does like bait tweets. They always at least seem to be doing stuff in good faith. They basically made a tweet saying that someone from Blizzard told them a lot of the reason why the PvE change has been enacted was because of the return to office policy. So that sparked Jared's tweet response here, which is basically saying the return to office policy was not what changed the PvE scope for Overwatch 2, which I would agree is true, because the work from home order or thing was announced, I think, in like February. I talked about it. I talked about it a bunch. But according to what they've told us, they made the decision to just stop PvE as late as December. So if that came in January, February, and the work from home thing was enacted January, February, and they'd already made the decision in December, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it would be impossible.
Publicly. But again, I feel like this is a case where Blizzard's PR speak tries to have it both ways. Did people quit because of the work from home? If they did, that would ultimately have a significant effect on your productivity. No? And if the team is big and capable, well, where's the product for it? It really sucks to have these developers speak on the behalf of the company and feed us these lies that just don't add up. But ultimately, we know who to blame.
It does kind of add up,
should have been no surprise.
It does add up, doesn't it? Because the work from home, now I could be wrong. Someone needs to go back and check my old videos, but I'm pretty sure work from home was announced in like January. And from what they told us, it is as late as December they decided that PvE was just toast. And as early as last year. So, like mid last year, like we're talking like April to like June. Although Siegel found an article in June where they were talking about the talent trees. So it seems like by June they were not lying. So that would put us at least around the range of September to December, which the work from home policy didn't come out till after. So it sounds like it's very much possible. To say something that I think we all know is that the devs really just did the best with what they were given. And as they've said publicly, developing the talent trees for every single hero in the game was an insane proposition. I almost wonder if they would have been better off just like taking 8 heroes. So they got rid of it before they dropped in the beta, I think that's where they swapped to focusing on PvP. But I was looking at Siegel's stream the other day. He was reading a dev blog, or not a dev blog, an interview from June. And Aaron Keller cited the talent trees. So there's no reason to think that they would have this intricate lie going last June. And from what they said, it seems like somewhere between like September, October to December is where they decided like PvE is just toast. We can't do it.
Or so, and making that game first just with them. Because from Reddit responses from the devs, they've told us that it was easier to design a brand new hero for PvP than to do the skill trees, which had all these different options for PvE,
in some ways,
even though it doesn't have to be as balanced. Somewhere between 30 and 50 talents for each hero in the game. That's an insane amount of content, especially when you think of like an action RPG.
That is actually insane.
Diablo, Borderlands 3, there's only a handful of characters in the game, and then they span off into a few skill trees, but it's not so much more. I figured they'd
be kind of like there'd be a lot of overlap, you know?
There. If they did try to do that game, it would have been the biggest action RPG type game of all time. So it's really heartbreaking to see them not be given the resources to make that game of the decade that it could have been. But it makes sense when you think to the way that Activision Blizzard King runs all of their IP. Candy Crush, Call of Duty, they want Overwatch to be like that, and it needs to be a different game if they wanted to make a real game instead of a cash flip with a low investment requirement and high return on investment, aka milking out IPs and giving the least amount of product for the most amount of money. It's a really unfortunate business strategy.
Mobile games.
If you look at a game like World of Warcraft, which is just outrageously massive, Overwatch 2 could have been the next thing. It could have reached towards the MMO aspirations that Aaron Keller talked about in the dev blog in my previous video. It could have reached that size of game, but at the moment, the best thing we're going to get is like a full campaign in like years of time, which I suppose is better than nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, I don't like being told it's better than nothing. Like, yeah, of course it's better than nothing, but like, that's kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of, it doesn't excuse all the other like years of shit. It doesn't. And again, it probably will be a slow rollout over many months or years.
But it's nowhere near
Tired
the artistic
chat.
vision of what these devs wanted to do. And that's where I want to transition to talk about Jeff Kaplan.
Okay, so again, let's reference tweet. This apparently is not true, especially the reason why Jeff left. But I'm still interested in hearing what they have to say.
It's blatantly obvious now that he was not signing up for any more of this ATVI BS. And while you guys know I had a lot of philosophical differences with Jeff over the years, I'll be straight up, the guy just did not like me at all. I was a thorn in his side for years, but
I can't say anything. I can't say anything. I legally can't say anything, but this is so much funnier than you have any idea.
I always respected
This is
the man's
so much
integrity
funnier
and artistic
than you
vision
have
and
any
very
clue.
unique route to arriving to a competitive multiplayer game that was unlike any
man.
other. Because Jeff worked on the WoW team for so many years, and as Aaron Keller said in his blog post, the team were WoW devs, they thought of things in more of the magical player immersion point of view, whereas other competitive titles, let's say Valorant, are all about the competition in every step of the way, which does have its benefits, I will admit, but you can see
in like
the
5 years
weaknesses
from now,
clear
we're in
as
a different
day.
game.
The characters are
I'll
less
tell you.
defined, they often aren't as imaginative or intuitive. So over the years, I had to grow a level of respect for the alternate route that guys like Jeff Kaplan or the now former lead hero designer Jeff Goodman would take to design. They look to maximize the fun first and worry about the competitive viability later. It gave us the GOATS meta we were trapped in, but it also gave us 2016's Game of the Year. So I tend to take the good with the bad. Now let's look back to quotes from the 2019 announcement of Overwatch 2. Keep in mind that many of us believe that this was pushed out the door because Bobby Kotick wanted to change the news cycle surrounding BlizzCon.
Yeah,
with
there is
controversy
actually
over the
a lot of
BlitzCon
evidence for
incident.
that.
So they had to come out with the big announcement then, even though it's pretty clear in hindsight.
Like they were like the thing is though is they probably were already working on Overwatch 2. Like it's not like, oh, we need to develop, we got to make Overwatch 2 now because like, you know, but like they needed something hard hitting, and their biggest IP at the time was Overwatch.
Really ready to do so. On stage, Jeff explained the endlessly
Jeff was probably put on stage to
missions.
tout that even harder.
He said it's what adventure mode is to Diablo. It was aimed to have a progression system with custom abilities and talents. Then he went on to explain that they wanted to redefine the sequel. And this is where I always thought it was very tone deaf to speak this way, because while Jeff was trapped at Activision Blizzard, where they're used to sequel churn like Call of Duty coming out every year, losing all of the progress, cosmetics, and everything to play a different game year on year, the rest of the industry had already changed to free to play. In 2019, Fortnite was the biggest game in the world, and at the start of that year, Apex Legends launched. So we had two games destroying Overwatch at the same time, which were free to play.
Don't forget though, Apex went crazy for like the first 2 months, and then it died for like 8 months. People don't remember, Apex died off for like 8 months because you know what happened? Their devs pretended that they knew better than the players, and after like 3 or 4 months of the game dying, they basically said, like, we don't know what's happening, and they really reinvested and started asking like their players and their creators and stuff like that to like what they can do better. And that's when they started really doing like changes that they wanted. Mostly, some small exceptions, like things like Skulltown and whatnot. But overall, though, they started doing what people actually thought was fun, and the game came back to life and started thriving. Actually, you could argue both ways, because they made certain changes, like, for example, Gold Res, like the knockdown shield. Casual players loved it, pro players hated it. They sided with the pro players and removed it, and a lot of casuals got really fucking mad. But they're still at their highest concurrent players. They're still growing every season. They're not on the decline. They're actually still growing. Slowly. Much slower than they used to. It definitely went down a little bit. But it's still growing, I think, over time. I will say, though, they are bumping back into that problem with their rank system where they're listening to pros and high-level players to make ranked better, but not fully committing. Like, they're listening halfway, and then it makes it a shit experience. For example, if you don't know what's happening in Apex right now, Pred player Sweet Dreams got to Pred, which is top 500, top 750 for Apex. Basically got to top 500 without dealing a single point of damage. They never shot, they never picked up a gun, nothing. They ratted their way to top 500. And you should never be able to climb to the top rank of a game, literally never playing, like just running away the entire time. That's stupid. The reason it works that way is because it's giving more points to placements as opposed to for kills or anything like that. But the buy-in is so low that if you get one game that's top 2, it undoes like 4 bad losses. Like if you die like off jump 2 or 3 times in a row and then have one good game, that one good game more than X's out those 3 losses. So the buy-ins aren't high enough. And I don't know what the cutoff is right now, but like we're like 2 weeks into the new Apex season and Predator is like 50 or 60,000 RP or LP. Ranked points. Masters, which is supposed to be like GM for them, like the highest rank before top 500, is 10,000. So think about that. 10,000 is for what GM is for them, and then to reach top 500 is 62,000 right now. That's, dude, hello. You know?
And
so
had all
perfect example, though, only listen to them halfway. So I don't know. There's a lot of arguments to be made there. I'm not saying I agree with either one, but
free in the game. So Jeff wanted his sequel to bring all of the old players along with, so you could keep all your cosmetics and you'd still be able to play with the new players in Overwatch 2. We never really got the full explanation of what that meant.
You're also only getting 60 points plus per game in Overwatch. You're only getting 5 or 10. Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying like, by playing the way Apex system works is it doesn't work the way that pro players wanted it to. They wanted placement over kill, like just feeding for kills, but the buy-in's not high enough that you get punished for dying fast, so you can just endlessly climb. That's the point. It has nothing to do with the numbers.
Because it didn't make any sense, but over the years we were able to stitch it together, and what it was going to be is that the PvP would just get updated and the PvE would be an entirely separate Diablo game, essentially, with its own campaign and endgame. And you would pay for that new experience, but you could also just stick to PvP if you wanted. They would be separate. That was always a competitive disadvantage, though, because at Activision Blizzard, they were a bit in a bubble with the box product model being so profitable for them. The writing was on the wall even at that point. If the rest of the industry was on the box product model, then yeah, that would have been revolutionary. But with so many free-to-play games already robbing attention from Overwatch, that was going to be doomed to fail. And think about this from Jeff Kaplan's point of view. He gets to be the scapegoat that goes on stage to overpromise this massive game that they're trying to make, that Aaron Keller cleared up on how audacious the vision of this was. That not only did Jeff want that, each hero having 30 to 50 talents in a PvE endlessly replayable Diablo game, behind the scenes, they wanted another higher, bigger game, a MMO game over that. After they made Overwatch 2. That's what Overwatch 3 was going to be. So at some point in the company, based on the leaks that we know from Sir Swag, they're looking at the numbers of all of this and how Jeff wants to scale this up, and I'm assuming a suit said no. In fact, I'll give you less resources. Good luck doing whatever you want. It always felt odd to me because Jeff Kaplan was vice president of Blizzard Entertainment, but I think as the coverage of the lawsuit and everything has gone on, we all know that there's really just one king at Activision Blizzard. It's Bobby. Every other position of leadership just seems to be a token. And hey, I mean, vice president was already probably a token position, but it felt strange that he couldn't have more pull to get what he wanted. But adding everything up now in hindsight, I think Jeff was looking down the barrel of the change of strategy that was being pushed onto him from top down.
I heard a story. I've heard stories of creators, and I won't say names because I don't know how much is like, I don't remember where I heard these stories, but I've heard stories of certain creators who've gone to Blizzard over the years when I was just a pleb fan. I wasn't a streamer or anything. They went to Blizzard and they met Jeff and they met other people from the team, and and I had a similar experience with like Aaron and stuff. They're very, very creative, fun, passionate individuals who want to talk about the game and literally sit there with you for like 10 hours and talk about shit. But they're not allowed. And basically Blizzard PR is like the fucking secret police that's like hiding behind them at all times. And like, they're just like, we're watching you. Watch your mouth. Be careful. Like, they're just like constantly like hovering and sitting behind them and are like, you can't say that. You can't talk about that. You can't say that. You can't talk about that. Like, I've heard so many stories of like Jeff trying to like show people cool stuff or talk about cool stuff in the past. And like Blizzard PR just like walks in from behind and is like, you can't do that. You're not allowed. Stop that now. And then like, and if Jeff was a VP and like PR can come in and completely override anything he wants to do, I think there's a good point to be made that maybe it really is a token of leadership. It's not
Seeing
real.
Everything that he wanted to build be reduced to rubble, and Jeff has to.
Blizzard PR is like the Dai Li. There is no PvE in Overwatch. No, but like you think I'm memeing with you right now. Like I'm being dead serious. I'm not like I know you guys know that I troll you guys a lot and I have a good time, but like I'm dead serious. That is legit. I'm not even fucking with you. It's real. Like it's legitimately a real thing.
Sit there and think, does he want to have to come out again and give this massive apology that he shouldn't have to make? I don't think Jeff would have wanted to lie to us and say that PvE is coming.
I'm actually with him.
Down the line,
I don't think he would have
explained that it's in this diminished capacity after he had just years ago on stage promised the world. I can see why he'd want to leave for that. Let someone else have to tell those lies. He was not going to walk the plank. Because while I have been on board for the free-to-play change, expensive cosmetics, I don't mind paying a battle pass because I like the content I get in it. I enjoy it more than loot boxes. I like the seasonal model. I like the update cycle we have. I even will probably like the campaign.
Okay, the hot take everyone needs to hear is the only reason why people like loot boxes better than the battle pass is because you never had to pay for them and you could farm loot boxes endlessly. Anyone who bought loot boxes, and it was someone who if you were one of the 100 people that actually bought loot boxes, I honestly probably like the battle pass better because there's no way paying $100 for like 15 loot boxes was better than paying for the battle pass. I don't believe it. But everybody else, though, we played the game enough that I had endless loot boxes. I had every skin in the game. I had 100,000 plus coins. I didn't need it. You know what I mean? So like,
So it's not even really necessarily any of these decisions that I hate. Because I never needed a Diablo game for Overwatch because Diablo 4 was coming anyway. I like Diablo 4. I'll play Diablo 4 for Diablo. The thing that I can't stand is the bait and switch, is the lying,
yes,
is the thought that I bought more skins thinking they were still making that.
I don't think that's actually true. I think that's straw man, but
canceled when they knew they canceled it before they even
but it is a bait and
Overwatch
switch, yeah.
2. They flew creators out like myself to show us all the amazing things they were doing for PvP.
I didn't get to see
that.
We
kept nagging them, especially me, by the way, the most annoying of any of the creators, asking the hardest questions behind the scenes.
That's so much funnier than and I can't fucking say why. It's so much funnier than you realize.
Always, with only a few other of my peers that even come close to how much I hold Blizzard's feet to the fire, we kept nagging about PvE, and we never got a response. I don't think I've ever used a cuss word on this channel. Fuck you, Blizzard. Fuck you. Fuck you for lying to my face and to all of our other creators, getting us on board with a strategy that you were not disclosing fully the changes and downgrades you were making. I am never trusting another thing you say ever again, because I will have to admit, I was lured by the personality and goodwill from the people who are working on the front lines, but fooled into believing that they speak genuinely. They often do, but they also speak PR speak for Bobby Kotick like everyone else does at that.
It's a very, 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 very scary thing to think about, because you can't even be mad at some of these people. Not that I'm saying I am, but it is someone who is a very upfront, sometimes a little bit blunt, sometimes a little bit what's a good word for it? Abrasive human being. I typically tell you what's on my mind, whether you like me or not. I hope that's one thing, whether you like me or not, you can give me some credit for. I really don't like when people smile at me and lie. I really don't like it, you know? And it's really hard because I can't get mad at some of these people because at the end of the day, you should always look out for your best interests. But it's hard though, because someone's smiling at you and it's like, hey, I want what's best for you. But on the other side, they know something that could help you or be better, and they obviously withhold it because that's in their best interests and, you know, legally, and they don't want to put themselves in any danger. You know, you can't help but sit there and go, wow, you said a lot of things to me with a straight face, with a smile. And you knew the other side of that. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense to you? It kind of fucks with me a little bit, you know? Fucks with me.
Company, and you can't expect anything more from that. I am beyond irate about how we as the entire community have been treated by Bobby Kotick. It's been his fault the entire way through, and the leaks just keep compounding. If you remember leaks from a while ago from an associate producer that went to Riot Games saying that Bobby Kotick would come down after telling the dev team to work on one big direction and switch gears entirely, ruining progress. Now on top of it, we have leaks saying that they would cut resources and make the project doomed to fail by having ridiculous expectations funded by starvation resource tactics. I'll end this rant today by reminding you
That's a good point,
Jeff
actually.
Kaplan's final response before leaving the company, written almost as if it was on a napkin in lowercase. Jeff's final personal note, he says, "I'm leaving Blizzard Entertainment after 19 amazing years. It was truly the honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to create worlds and heroes for such a passionate audience. I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone at Blizzard who supported our games, our game teams, and our players. But I want to say a special thanks to the wonderful game developers that shared in the journey of creation with me. Never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. I hope you do the same."
I feel like that's what a lot of us do, is this part. Always dare to see what it is for what it could be. And for what, better or for worse, some people love this, some people hate it. But I feel like I can confidently say I've always tried to dare to see for what it could be.
GG, Jeffrey
I feel like
Kaplan.
I feel like I have upheld my end, Jeff. I've upheld it.
A notable exemption here. The silence on certain aspects of the company is deafening, supporting his developers as he always did, and very clearly throwing shade at the suits that sabotaged his dream project, so much so that he was willing to leave it after being one of the longest running developers at the company, who helped build the skyrocketing World of Warcraft. And
now, don't forget though, all of this part of this video saying is speculative, and a former Blizzard employee says it's not true. Again, though, still want to hear what he has to say.
To work on Project Titan, which eventually transformed into Overwatch. And I can't help but imagine if Bobby Kotick was willing to pay himself less and the talented people making the things that make him all that money more, if we could have just had more wonderful things. Overwatch 1 was a beacon of hope in the game industry when there was a lot of also ran type shooter games out. Overwatch 2 was supposed to be the walk, as Aaron Keller describes it. Instead, as we know, that vision will never be realized at this pace, at the level of commitment that Bobby Kotick is willing to give this dev team. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't...
Okay. That was something.